he's a full go and he's good to go Sunday against the Bills in the AFC title game. That, after a concussion, forced him out of last week's win over the Browns. Here is Mahomes on the process just to get to this point.
Everything's been good, and I've went through what all the 3-4 different doctors have said, and everything's looked well, and I'm out of it now. You have to take it day by day. I think that's the biggest thing. You can only control what you can control, and for me, that was coming in every single day with a positive attitude, trying to make myself better, prepare myself as if I was going to play. And luckily enough, I haven't had any symptoms, and I'm able to play. And so I just prepared myself and controlled what I could control. And luckily enough, we're at where we're at now.
We're at now with senior NFL reporter Jeremy Fowler, who joins us this morning. Jeremy, Mahomes clears concussion protocol, but he's also dealing with a toe injury. How concerned are the Chiefs about that?
Randy, I'm told the Chiefs are not overly concerned. They're going to watch his mobility leading into the game. It's really more of a pain tolerance issue. Mahomes loves to roll around and throw the ball on the run. They expect him to be able to do that and play freely. They could cut down on some of those design runs, though. The last 2 times he's gotten hurt, dating back to last season, were on either a sneak of some sort or a quarterback sweep. So they're going to try to cut those out for the most part, play it safe with him. But the concussion protocol was always the bigger issue here because the toe injury, he can play through that pain. The protocol, he had to take all the necessary steps to actually get cleared. And I talked to one source close to Mahomes this week that said, look, this is the AFC Championship game. You probably have to cut off that toe to keep him out of the lineup.
Well, listen, last year's AFC Championship game, he had that remarkable touchdown run against the Titans, so we know that is part of his offensive versatility. Much more from Jeremy on the way. Some key injuries to watch for the Bucs and the Packers ahead of the NFC Championship game.
Fastball is a high drive into deep left center field. Buckner goes back to the fence. It is gone.
It's 7:15. There's a new home run champion of all time, and it's Henry Aaron.
What a marvelous moment for baseball. What a marvelous moment for Atlanta and the state of Georgia. What a marvelous moment for the country and the world.
A man's ability is limited only by his opportunities. Hank Aaron said that, and it's always made me wonder, what if Aaron had lived in a world that wasn't threatened by his quick wrists, a world that wasn't threatened by a black man's success, as he tracked down the home run record, and then he became the home run king. The record came in the 70s, but the bulk of his resume was built in the 50s and 60s, and think about that. His life was threatened because how dare a black man be that good? He required security so much so that he was forced to isolate away from many of his teammates. So much success and so much grace in the face of an unequal and unfair world. And what if his opportunities had been more? Hank Aaron died, his family says, peacefully in his sleep. He was 86. The baseball stats, they speak for themselves. 755 home runs in a 23-year career in which he led baseball in RBI, extra base hits, and total bases. In fact, he still leads those categories. Our Howard Bryant wrote the book on Aaron and said, baseball aside, Aaron was what we all want to be.
His journey is our journey. And I think that the thing that gave me some joy dealing with him was how he recognized by the end, or how America caught up to him, and that he actually got to enjoy being Henry Aaron. And I think that is the good part of if there is a good part of the whole story, it's that he ended up winning, he made it.
We're not only talking about a transcendent baseball player, we're talking about a transcendent person in American history as well. I mean, Jackie Robinson kind of set the stage, but Hank took it to a whole nother level, you know, and when you're talking about, you know, a black man elevating himself in that day and age to, you know, the best in the game and embarking on a journey that would take him to the top of the home run list and passing, you know, Babe Ruth and all that he endured. It really is amazing. He is a beautiful human.
He believed that the great equalizer was on the field of play, but he also knew that the numbers were not enough. You could put up these big numbers, you still have so much work to do, and that's why he remained an ambassador throughout his entire life. He didn't stop. He knew that there was more work to do, and baseball could be the pathway by which to do it.
41 years covering the game, and my all-time professional highlight was in 2018 when Hank Aaron came into our booth and sat next to Dave Fleming, Eduardo Perez, and myself for 4 innings. An hour and a half after the game, I looked at Twitter, usually never a good idea, and someone had written on Twitter, if you ever...
2 and takes a big L. Why Brooklyn struggled, and now the biggest improvement they have to make to get this thing right. Plus, Patrick Mahomes clears concussion protocol, but there's still issues to overcome. Why the Chiefs may have concerns about the reigning Super Bowl MVP. And 2 legends face off when Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers take the field. Injury updates you need to know, and what's at stake as the future Hall of Famers collide.
Our city is nicknamed Titletown for a reason. It's a special place to play.
I think the clock had already expired. Oh, a poster for the fro.
Been a lot of hair talk on this show this week. Glad that continues. Properly
waterfall.
Caffeinated on this Saturday morning Sports Center AM. Nicole Briscoe and Randy Scott alongside. It is early, but let's talk NBA postseason because the Nets had better hope they don't see the Cavs in the playoffs.
Okay, so is it the big 3 or 3-1? Either way, it doesn't really matter. Nets taking on the Cavaliers. There's not going to be any Kevin Durant in this one. It's Achilles rehab for him. Keep in mind, he did just play 50 minutes in Wednesday night's game, also against the Cavs. It was a double overtime win for Cleveland. Stars in that game were stars in this one as well, like Kyrie. A couple of buckets to go over Colin Sexton early in this one. He finished with a season-high 38 points. He also had 5 assists. He scored 75 in the last 2 games. Here's the problem. The defense that the Nets had, they gave to the Cavs in that trade for James Harden. Remember, it was a 4-team trade. Revenge is a dish best served on a poster. Look at Jarrett Allen's smile. Look at the look on his face. The feed from Colin Sexton, who had 25 points. Allen didn't stop there, though. He's going to take that little poster and go put it in his room. 19 points for Allen, and oops, Brittany did it again. James Harden turns it over. Cavs in transition. Darius Garland throws it up, and Allen's like, I know what to do. Joe Harris said of his former teammate, those plays were really cool. You really wish they weren't happening against you, though. So he is a former Nets player. So too is Taurean Prince. 14 points for him. James Harden scored. He had 19. He also had 11 assists. But this is another loss for the Nets. Their second straight, both to the Cavs, 125-113. Kyrie says these are humbling.
Big changes that have happened in the last few weeks. So we just take our time. You know, we know what the outside world expects of us. That's going to happen. You know, those ups and downs are going to happen. One day we're great, next day we're not. That's just the luxury of being in a great business such as this. And I say that very sarcastically. But I'm grateful to be a teammate with these guys, and we continue to develop. And that's what I'm looking forward to.
Honestly, our problem isn't offense. Like, we scored 113 points tonight, and even last game was more than enough to win the game. I think defensively we have to be more engaged, and we have to round up some more stops consecutively, and that'll make our offense a lot better. So offensively, we're not worried at all. It's our defense.
Duh! The Nets gave up 272 to the Cavs in the last 2 games, and they allowed 134 points in the paint in those 2 games against the Cavs. That is the most they've allowed in any 2 games in the last 25 seasons. And this season, the Nets are allowing more in the paint than any other team. They're also givers, like the givers of a second chance. The Nets have allowed at least 15 second chance points in 14 games this season. Oh, you thought that was funny? I bet the Nets don't. Twice as many as any other team. And it's led to this. The Nets have given up at least 105 points in 14 games this season. That is tied for the most in the NBA.
All right, let's get out west. We got the Nuggets. We got the Suns. I'm going to go to Arizona right now. Chris Paul's enjoying it. Paul sharing the basketball. Big hand in what the Suns did offensively in the first half. Mikal Bridges, corner 3, 6 of 8 from distance. Paul to Devin Booker for 3. Paul had 14 dimes in the first half, tied for his most in any half in his career, but he would only finish with 15. The Suns' offense came back to the pack a little bit later in the game. We've got a dad bod God sighting. Nikola Jokic trimmed down, the haircut, the whole deal. 31 points, 10 rebounds. He's the 6th player since a merger to start a season with 15 straight double-doubles. Then you got Bridges going to miss a 3. Scrum on the floor, foul on DeAndre Ayton, rather. Ayton scores. He had 27 and 13. You can see Devin Booker is sort of wincing as he walks away. He would have to leave the game, did not return, and the Nuggets took advantage. Jamal Murray, the blue arrow, keeping it himself. A couple of his 18 points. And the Nuggets get their first overtime win of the season. Matter of fact, they're over 500 for the first time this season as well. We'll go back to the Eastern Conference, much more NBA on the way. Whose hot was hotter, Joel Embiid's or Jaylen Brown? Possible playoff preview in Philly. Playoffs continue in the NFL. Chiefs are a win away from another Super Bowl trip, and Friday they got their Super Bowl MVP back, like all the way back. Patrick Mahomes cleared